to some of the theology, I don't think it's necessarily philosophical alone, it's theological as well. The Unitarian God posits God as an ultimate one. Okay, so God is one in being, one in nature, and one in person. Okay, the problem with that is at a fundamental level, you have an issue with plurality. Where does plurality come from? Which is more ultimate, one or many? And so when you emphasize the one, then the plurality becomes mysterious, unintelligible, and in some cases, especially in some Eastern lines of thinking, the many become illusory. They're not true manys, if that makes sense. For example, in Hinduism, you have over 330 million gods, but they're all manifestations of the one Brahman. So think in terms of like an ocean with multiple waves. There are many waves, but they're all part of the one. So you have an illusion of many, but an ultimate one. The Unitarian God cannot provide the preconditions for everything in existence that requires unity and plurality. For example, speaking, to predicate. When I say the barn is red, I'm talking of the many particular barns, and I am asserting or I am predicating redness to that barn. That is a unifying principle, the one. What grounds those categories? Why do they exist? From a biblical perspective, since God is the father of the facts and gives meaning to the facts, God's attribute set as being both one and many in his nature, both equally ultimate, provide the ultimate context and foundation of which every derivative fact gets its meaning. Okay, that's just a fancy way of saying that a Unitarian God cannot provide what must be the case in order for us to speak, because to speak requires one and many. And so speaking is only possible because of the triune God. Thinking intelligibly is only possible because of the triune God. Again, I don't recommend you use that fancy terminology, but if that tickles your fancy and you were wondering, that's how I would answer the question. But if you want to do Sizeway, it's because
you're so good. You're so good. It sounds like you're reading it. I do love the topic, though. And I think, no, it sounds like you're reading it. But
I didn't know he was going to ask this question. I've thought about it a lot.
I do love the topic, though, because one thing that I refer people to is the word university. Yep. Universities were initially developed to reconcile the unity with the diversity. And now universities aren't universities anymore. They're diversities. But the only place that the unity and the diversity can be reconciled is in the Trinity.
That's right.
And so that's what universities were meant to explore, the unity and the diversity. And they're not doing that anymore. They've lost their way.
That's right. And that's a great way. That's an easy way to say it. University is an attempt to unify all the particular disciplines, because the people who started universities understood the problem of having to unify what we see in the world as different things and overarching concepts that give them meaning. Van Til described it as beads. God is the string that beads all of the particular facts of experience. If you're an atheist, all you have is beads, if you have that at all. Unrelated, no necessary connection between the facts. And yet, what does the unbeliever do in rejecting God? They must assert a unity to those facts while denying the one who gives those facts unity. And that is because they do this because, to quote a great Christian philosopher, Sye Ten Bruggencate, because they know that God exists. They are idolaters. They remove the God they know and give a false unity that is not the triune God to the facts, so that they can understand the facts without him. But it doesn't work.
They demand the characteristics of God and reject them all the while.
That's right. And then they'll give attributes to God, attributes of God to nature, right? Nature has selected this phenomenon. They give the personal qualities to impersonal things. Very interesting to hear them talk that way. Reminds me of Romans 1. I think Paul wrote something about that. Anyway.